NFT2, the evolution of digital assets from gaming to e-commerce to the open metaverse. Now, the speaker is William Quigley. He is a cryptocurrency and blockchain investor and invested more than 30 Bitcoin blockchain and cryptocurrency-related investments and co-developed the first crypto derivative to use trade pre-release Ethereum. He co-founded Tether, the first fiat-backed stablecoin and most traded cryptocurrency to date. GoCoin, a pioneering crypto payments processor, and co-founded Wax, NFT blockchain platform. In 2013, Mr. Quigley co-founded Cryptocurrency Partners, a blockchain equity investment fund with early notable investments in some of the most important companies that we work with every day, such as Coinbase, Kraken, Bitfury, Authy, ChangeTip, and Circle. Please welcome William Quigley to the stage.
Good afternoon. I think I can just forward here. There we go. All of you know what this is, hopefully. These are NFTs. What I want to talk a little bit about today, though, is that NFTs are a lot more than meets the eye. What makes NFTs remarkable? Because we think of them mostly as media files. Here is how I have synthesized why I find NFTs to be really phenomenal objects. It's the ability to transfer something of value at virtually no cost to somebody else, where that receiver knows with certainty that whatever they've received is authentic. I don't think there is anything else on earth where that definition would apply. Any other transfer of value is going to necessarily involve not just costs, but also a great deal of questions about whether or not what you see is authentic. And I always look for somebody who's come up with some other example, but this is why NFTs are so important, and also why last year we saw the rise of NFTs as media files, which are really remarkable in themselves because there's a lot of fraud and questions in the art world, in the collectible industry about what's authentic and what isn't, but it's just the beginning. Think of NFTs as computers, because that's what they are. And every NFT is a Turing-complete computer that you're able to send to somebody else, programmed any way you want. Where did these things come from? The origin of NFTs is actually the video game industry. I and my partner had started the first marketplace for the buying and selling of video game virtual items back in the 90s. And in many respects, video game virtual items look a lot like NFTs with just a few differences. This here is a game called CSGO, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. That drab-colored rifle is a skinless or a video game virtualist image right now. You can dress it up, and that kind of reminds you a little bit of maybe dressing up your avatar. That's called a skin. A skin is in video game parlance, it's a virtual item that has no in-game utility. It's strictly for cosmetic purposes. Now, that particular skin costs around 40,000 USD. And you can imagine, back before NFTs, these things were very valuable virtual objects and traded a lot like what we see NFTs today. The industry, the video game industry, generates roughly $200 billion every year in revenues from virtual objects. So the secondary market is roughly 50 billion. So 200 billion in primary revenue, 50 billion in secondary market revenue. That's every year, and that's high margin. So you can see it is a big business. And this is one reason why I got excited about NFTs, because as a video game guy, I thought, you know, if we could do just what video games do, it's a giant industry worth putting on the blockchain for a number of reasons. But NFTs are different from those in very key ways. They're not ruled by overlords, for one. So every video game is either natively on a PC, a personal computer, or it's on a platform. These are all platform companies. And as we've learned more and more over the last few years, the platform companies like to impose a lot of restrictions on what you can do. So one key way that NFTs are different from the video game world is that there are no restrictions. You're on permissionless blockchains. So that alone should make you say, wow, if the industry is 250 billion for virtual objects that can rarely be traded for real money, maybe the NFT industry could be even bigger. And then you get to something that NFTs can do that virtual objects never could. As I said, NFTs are computers. So every time you think about them as programmable objects. So now what you have are a very large industry, 250 billion annually, but that doesn't have two significant impediments to being a lot bigger. When you release those impediments, and you're in the NFT space, you can imagine why it will be much, much bigger. As I mentioned, these things are programmable. I won't go into a lot here, just to say they are computers. Every NFT is a Turing-complete computer, and that just means it can be programmed to do virtually anything that your imagination says it can be. And when you're not restricted by a platform like Meta, i.e. Facebook, and what you can do, starts to give you a sense of how much broader the NFT ecosystem can be from what we saw in 2021. And that leads us to Web 3.0. Web 3.0, also called the Metaverse, how do I think about it? I think of it as an environment, a digital environment, where you have smart objects, programmable, transferable smart objects that today are known as NFTs, in a permissionless ecosystem. And that means truly open economies. And open economies in the digital realm are ones that are not restricted by someone else's business model. And I'll talk a little bit in a few minutes about how restricted the world really is if you're on someone else's platform. Where we are today, we've just about finished NFT Era 1.0. And that was ruled by certain aspects of the NFT world. The first one is they were on a single blockchain. Almost all of them were on one blockchain, which was necessary initially because a lot of different chains today don't actually speak to each other. But it's a limit because you have to jump from one chain to another. If you have a collection of NFTs around multiple chains, it's complex. The other, of course, is they were ruled by mostly media files. Not just traditional two-dimensional art, but obviously video clips, music, and such. The collectibles industry has greatly benefited this year and last year from having tradable objects that are instantly authentic. And of course, this new rise of what we call PFPs, profile picture NFTs, things like Bored Apes, CryptoPunks, and the others. It's also the realm of the independent developer, meaning not really any large companies have been in it so far. This is always the case, by the way, with new technologies. The first people that are adopted are the people who really don't have anything to risk or lose. So they're just experimenting, and that's indies. We're going into NFT Era 2.0. And first, cross-chain compatible. At Wax, a company that I co-founded, we're already issuing NFTs on different blockchains simultaneously. As identity systems. So NFTs are actually a great way to secure your identity because NFTs are blockchain-based and blockchains are databases that can't be edited. So there's no crossing out your age or your address and putting in a fake one. So they work really well as passports or any kind of other identifiable document. Membership rights. Here, AMC movie theater chain recently issued NFTs to their shareholders, which have a number of rights. These are what we call NFTs with utility. That'll be a pretty big theme in 2022. And then, of course, once you have NFTs that are convertible into other things, they could be backed by real-world objects, and they can be transferred. You're really ushering the age of digital collateral that the consumer can use. So we should expect a lot in the realm of lending and using as collateral digital objects. You could have a whole panel on why a digital piece of collateral is infinitely better than a physical piece of collateral if you're the lender. Yield-bearing instruments, for all of you who know anything about play-to-earn gaming, that's what this is about. NFTs that actually do something or allow you to do something in a game to earn a token. And that token then can be traded on a decentralized exchange or a regular exchange. But NFTs that can actually earn passive income, huge theme in 2021 and now going into 2022. I'd like to add a few things here about what I see in the more distant future, going out 2 to maybe 5 years for NFTs. The first is that NFTs will be linked to consumer products. We started doing that a couple of years ago at a very basic level. We started to do that with toy companies like Hasbro, Mattel, Funko, and others. In 10 years' time, I suspect many consumer products will be tokenized. They'll all have digital twins. The digital twin you will use in the metaverse, or you'll use it to trade. The physical object will either be something you retain and use, or something that's held in custody somewhere else to be used as collateral. There are today thousands of companies that exist simply to identify whether a document is real, employing millions of people globally. When you consider that NFTs do this without effort, they do this without any people. That is literally what they are for, to make sure that whatever it is authentic without any cost. Lots of companies in this space today are either going to morph into NFT focused as part of their business model, or they're going to disappear. The other is fee collection. Now, I could go into a long list of companies that exist. Many that employ more than 10,000 people. They literally exist just to collect fees. Royalties and software royalties, intellectual property royalties. There are many organizations globally that rely on armies of internal systems and auditors to go out and make sure that what's getting reported is accurate. You won't need to do that with NFTs. NFTs linked to smart contracts do it automatically. On the blockchain that I built, we have some smart contracts that have 10, 15 recipients for every transaction. So literally, when that transaction occurs, the royalties waterfall down to 15 different entities instantly. That you can't even do that in the world today without NFTs. So this is an area in what I would call the enterprise world where NFTs will proliferate. When it comes to the video game world, what's going to happen in the future? Now, there's a lot of speculation that big video game companies are going to jump into the NFT space. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, there will be companies that claim they're in the NFT space, but what they're offering to their consumers will not be NFTs. They will not be open, permissionless, programmable objects you can do anytime you want to in Facebook's Metaverse, not even close, because then you would be potentially encroaching on Facebook's business model. They will be, for the most part, just digital objects like they already have. But I've laid out all of the platforms there going back to basically the 70s when electronic gaming began in the arcade world. In every instance of a new technology platform in gaming, it was a new set of businesses, a new set of companies that wound up dominating. And that will almost certainly be the case in blockchain gaming as well. It started that way, of course. All of the big blockchain games are independent game developers with brand new intellectual property. Patents, something that's almost unspeakable in the blockchain world, because blockchain was founded around the philosophy of open source computing. That is going to change, however. There are probably over 50,000 patents now that have been filed around blockchain-related things. Many in China, many in patents filed by very large companies, companies that up until now have said they have no interest in blockchain. So just as we saw in the wireless world and the mobile phone industry where we had giants competing and then starting to litigate, this is going to happen here too. Unfortunate, but I do see it as one of the future things a lot of attention will be paid on. And then, as I said, on not just video gaming, but the big tech platforms themselves, I don't think NFTs, as we think about them, will ever exist. They're just anathema to how they make money. And probably if I was running one of these platforms, I wouldn't do it either. NFTs pose a true risk to two very big companies' online stores, Google Play and the Apple App Store. Both of those are closed, walled systems, and both of them make a lot of that $200 billion that the video game industry makes. A lot of that's made in the mobile space in the platforms that are listed here. I don't think until they've seen these businesses really diminish, will they embrace the NFT world, because it's going to be a lot harder for those companies to capture the value that NFTs allow. Because most of that value capture today is being captured by the companies that make them and the secondary market owners. This here, I don't know what the implication's going to be. I just know it's going to be big. China has essentially outlawed blockchain, other than the one they're building today for their digital RMB, their stablecoin. They also have started to crack down heavily on video gaming. Most of that is not for economic reasons, but for sociological reasons. The Chinese government has seen what's happened to their young people and what their young people are doing, gaining weight, not going to school, playing video games. Video games are altering the minds of people. They are addictive. And the Chinese market is the largest in the world. And it's probably the one with the most video game addicts, people who just can't get away from them. So China looks at blockchain and video games as like a vice sandwich. They hate both of them. So with the largest video game market in the world saying we're not going to allow it, there's an opportunity there for everybody outside of that world to do well, because you've basically neutered a group that was building a lot of innovative stuff in gaming. But it's also a market of whatever, 20% of humanity that won't be available to anyone in this space. Net, I still think it's a benefit for companies outside of China, but it's a factor to contend with. Lots of people have asked me about, are NFTs other than the ones you've heard of, Bored Apes and maybe the Topps baseball card company or CryptoPunks, are these having a very big impact in the crypto space overall? And I would say huge, very unexpected. Most of the top 10 blockchains by transaction volume have that volume today, and they didn't have it a year ago because of NFTs. NFTs are the dominant traffic now on blockchains. If you look at the top dApps, the decentralized application categories of blockchain, gaming, marketplaces, decentralized exchanges, they're all dominated by NFT traffic. So it has had a profound effect on blockchain, and that only recently began. That started around, call it January of last year. So yes, they're having a big impact. And if you look at two chains that launched as solutions to the problems of scalability and demand. I think most of the people in this audience know of the problems with Ethereum. It's very expensive and fairly slow. That makes it not a great thing for a consumer mass market phenomenon like video gaming or NFTs in general. Both of those recently have failed from a modest increase in traffic caused by a single video game on their blockchain, both Solana and Polygon. So, by the way, that should tell you that a lot of when blockchains advertise that they're really high volume and they can handle a lot more traffic, and let's say the predecessor Ethereum, be very skeptical. Generally, those chains have not been subjected to real world implications. And when they do, so far, most of them have not been able to perform. As I alluded to a little earlier about fads, lots and lots of people ask, are NFT fads? NFTs are, think of them like an NFT to a mobile phone. It's a computer, it's multi-purpose. What an NFT is not is, let's say, a Bored Ape, right? That's just one version of it. Will collections of NFTs come and go in popularity? Of course. Somebody may get sick and tired of looking at their CryptoPunk. In the same way, if you had an iPhone and you were using the Angry Birds app, you might get bored at the Angry Birds app, but that doesn't mean you're going to throw away your iPhone. In the same way, you might get bored with an NFT collection, but the concept of NFTs is going to be here to stay, and it's going to proliferate not just in the consumer space, but also in the enterprise space. This gives you a sense of how prolific NFTs are going to be. You've got three universal human behaviors that NFTs touch on. Basically shopping, trading, and playing. Each of those categories globally is very, very big. between hundreds of billions and trillions. NFTs fit in every single one of those. They fit in the center of that. And not what you've seen yet, perhaps, but fairly soon, NFTs will touch virtually every aspect of your consumer experience. And that's it for what I wanted to talk about today.